sister.
Hi. So I'm really excited for this little segment we call Go Sage Yourself. We actually, so if you're watching this, we have a podcast called the Sunflower Society Podcast. Getting pretty good feedback on this segment, and we thought, well, why not just share this regularly on our YouTube channel, right? Because our followership is flourishing.
Come on, guys.
Come
Give us
on.
some love. Click the
Hit the
ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling.
Okay, but seriously, yes, we've actually had our podcast almost 2 years, but we are trying to grow our YouTube channel. We don't make any qualms about hiding that, so we would rather just come out and say it rather than use crafty tactics of other people with much larger budgets than us. So we just beg. We just beg instead. Okay, but we're gonna jump right in. We have a segment on our podcast that's called Go Sage Yourself. And so we're gonna kick that off here for you all. I should have been more prepared with our actual music, but here we are and I'm not. So here we go.
So, Go Sage Yourself is a segment of our podcast that we normally do to talk about people in the media or the news or politics or what have you, entertainment world, that we feel could either use a little bit of saging for maybe some bad behavior or atypical decisions that they've made, those types of things. So, in this segment, we choose to either pass our sage to them for their use and cleansing, or we keep it for ourselves but recommend that they go buy their own. That's all.
Well said, sister. Well said. All right. So anytime you hear that music, you know it is time for us to light the sage. And we're actually going to be showing a clip, just a short clip from one of our favorite podcasts. What do you like most about H3?
Well, it's a husband and wife, and I think they're adorable, and they've been together for a long, long time, since their early 20s. They met in Israel. Ela, his wife, is from Israel, from Israel, and she was in the Israeli army, and he was over there for a, what do they call it? Journey?
Wow. Sorry. Didn't know we had a super stalker on our hands.
You don't know their story?
I haven't watched like how they've met. I just love their interactions, their relationship. You can see the genuine love and also just partnership and respect that they have for each other.
Yeah. I was going there,
partners,
building it up, you know.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go on. Sorry.
What is that called when Jewish people go to Israel, like from the US or other countries, to visit holy walls?
Sure. I'll look it up. Keep
Whatever.
going.
Okay.
I'll look it up.
Anyways, so they got together and traveled back and forth from the US back to Israel and lived in Israel for a while. But anyhow, long story short, he started making videos and loved it. And they now have a podcast, and we're big fans because of what Justine was saying. I guess I didn't have all that much more to say. Sorry, sister.
It shows that it's called Taglit. I am totally butchering this, so I apologize. Taglit Birthright Israel.
Birthright. Yeah.
Birthright Israel, also known as Birthright, is a not-for-profit educational organization that sponsors free 10-day heritage trips to Israel, Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights for young adults of Jewish heritage, ages 18 to 32.
Yeah. Sounds like prime mate picking during that time.
It does. Well, it worked out for H3. Like, so they're what did they say? H3 actually is their initials, Ela, and then the 3 is Ethan. It's E backwards.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. We're super fans. Okay, well, so we're gonna choose. We chose a clip from their podcast, just to give you some background context. And the person at hand today is a man, Britney Spears' father.
Ooh,
So
dun
this
dun
is this
dun.
this clip is to give you a little background context. Kara and I have not watched the documentary yet on Hulu, but there is a documentary. I think there's a series that the New York Times puts out, but this most recent episode is about like Free Britney and this whole stuff about her conservatorship. That's a hard word to say.
Conservatorship.
Conservatorship. Oh, you've been practicing,
I
have
did practice because part of their
conservatorship.
episode was
Yeah,
like
in their
how hard it was
episode,
to say it. I was like, it's not that hard, but and then
conservatorship.
I messed it up like 5 times in a row.
So let me cue this up for you all. And you should be able to see that. Let's see.
So messed up. First of all, they go all throughout like how she became famous, and when Britney when she was at like the height of her fame, the paparazzi industry was so crazy. They interviewed this guy, I forget what magazine it was, but they had like $1 million a month budget. They were paying paparazzi, like the paparazzi business was so lucrative, and they were paying people so much for candid photos that that's why there were so many of these.
Do you think this is just a quick like narration, not narration, but like kind of a sidebar? I guess we are narrating it, right? We're talking it through.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that, especially Gen Z, because of the YouTuber industry now for the past decade or so, I'm not sure if they realize how incredibly damning the paparazzi industry was, especially in the early, like the 90s and the late 90s and early 2000s. Because I think about Princess Di and her death and just everything she experienced. And then you look at like the rise of like the Christina Aguileras, the Britney Spears, the Justin Timberlakes. Like, I'm not sure how some of them made it out. Because they all started on Mickey Mouse Club too.
Yeah, I don't think especially Britney, I don't think she made it out. I think she's like in deep, what do you call it? Conservatory? What are you if you're the recipient?
Conservatory? I don't know.
I don't know, but it sounds like dirty, dirty business. And to your point, the paparazzi, I feel like they're still really volatile because like we talked about recently, the JoJo Siwa
That's true.
Story, and they doxed her house, and then what?
Again, who is she tied to?
But I'm saying the paparazzi like were outside her house, and to get her to come outside, they called the police and basically incited like a raid on her house, saying I don't know exactly what was said, but so essentially they got her to come out of her house by having the police come and have her out of her house. And then this is how this whole story broke. So that's to me is even more volatile because if like a SWAT team shows up and they believe that there's drugs or weapons or something like that involved, what are they going to do? They're going to probably take all measures to keep their officers safe.
I stand corrected. I think corrected. It might be worse to be Gen Z and be in the limelight. But the curious thing behind all that is they're all tied back to Disney. It'd be really hard to believe that somebody somewhere at Disney isn't like working both sides and feeding that information to paparazzi and taking payoffs. I mean, if cops do it, like I'm not
sure that happens.
Not sure because you work for Disney that you're just an angel.
No, but
in fact,
I'm
quite sure you're not. No.
I'm pretty sure Walt Disney was like a certified racist person. Like, I feel like I've been reading.
I've heard things
about that lately.
Yeah, like that.
Don't quote me on that. That's all hearsay.
Don't cancel us, please.
You're supposed to say allegedly.
Oh, Kara said she allegedly has heard that about Walt Disney. Okay. We use the word allegedly, everybody.
People doing it. They interviewed one guy who got this infamous photo of her like all crazy with a shaved head when she was
His
attacking
face.
his car with an umbrella. I think he got like $1 million for that photo.
That's insane.
And I mean, these paparazzi really ruined her life.
Also, it was interesting for me to see how she came to the success. Like, I had no idea that she was so young and it happened so fast. She was just really talented. That's
Oh, it
great.
got really loud all of a sudden.
Is like basically her dad is not very involved in her life. He's really, since the very beginning, just interested in the money. Her mom is there for her.
I would pause on that because, like, I don't know how, like, I'm sure he's somewhat correct, but I don't know if that's true. From what I understood from their backstory, like, they had a very close-knit family until her parents divorced at a certain point, and I think it was at the point she was getting kind of famous back in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, and
I never
from
really.
what I understood,
I
he
heard
was
about-
like
Sorry.
very involved and a very involved dad as far as what I remember of their story back then. So I don't know. I feel like this is probably a lot more complicated than what they're painting
Yeah,
it to
and
be.
I think that with her case, both of her parents, if I remember correctly, I think both of her parents were very involved.
Yeah.
Who I do remember creeping me out as like a stage dad was Jessica Simpson's dad.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you remember
both of
he
those
would pop
scenarios
up
were
even
not
when she had the
normal.
Newlywed Show on MTV with Nick Lachey. He would pop up in those episodes and he always had his hands in everything.
I'm pretty sure he was like a pastor or something, wasn't he?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So breakdown was interesting too, because what happened was these paparazzi are like, let me show you some of these here's an excerpt actually from the documentary.
She was with her cousin Allie.
So she, trying to get away from the paparazzi, went with her cousin
Can
Allie.
you fast forward a little bit to more about her dad?
Yeah.
Getting denied, then going again. She's clearly having like the worst night of her life, and he's still following her.
So this is the setup onto how she got her dad as the conservator of her estate.
It was a great night. Yeah. Like, I remember they talked about this photo where she has her newborn baby in her lap, and everyone's trashing her that she's such a bad mom and it's unsafe. But when she talks about it, she's like, look, the paparazzi were all up in my shit. I was trying to put my baby in my seat. They were just in my fucking face. It wasn't a safe situation. So
I would have done the same thing.
Around the corner, it's like, it makes sense.
I think anybody would have done the same thing.
It's like, Brittany's a horrible mom. She's not responsible. She can't have this kid.
Yeah, I remember all that.
But they definitely didn't paint it that way then.
No.
Hounded by the paparazzi and losing custody of her kids. She checked into a mental rehabilitation center. And then when she did that, all of a sudden, out of the woodworks comes her dad, who was never involved in her life, that he was never really involved, and comes out and makes this really bizarre play to take control of her entire estate, finances, and entire well-being.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's probably a good starting point for our conversation. Like, I don't know who the judge was that made that okay, because they go on to talk about that a little bit in more detail. Like, so essentially, Britney was like, yeah, I need this in my life. I need somebody to do it, but I need an outside person to do it. And I don't, for under any circumstance, want my dad. Is her dad Frank? I feel like his name is Frank. Someone call him Frank.
Okay,
so
sure.
Frank should not have the authority of my conservatorship. I want this to be taken care of because I need it. I'm not mentally stable at the moment, but I do not want my dad doing it. And for whatever reason, the judge, I imagine because of legal structure and wherever she's from, she's somewhere down south, maybe Georgia. I don't remember.
I think they're originally from Louisiana, I think.
Louisiana. Yeah, I think that sounds right.
I'm looking real quick.
A judge granted him the conservatorship anyhow. And the rumor is that she is like, he controls all of her money. She's still working, like she's still traveling and doing shows, but like the fact that she's able to do all that and coordinate all that and still perform, but yet supposedly does not have the mental facility to execute things in her life effectively at this point after just a really stressful, crazy situation that happened years and years and years ago. That's insane to me. And also, like, she's on Instagram all the time, and there's this whole like hashtag free Britney thing, which
Right.
is really bizarre, but like her fans apparently like tell her to, like, Britney, if you're in trouble, like, and you're being controlled, wear yellow tomorrow, and then she'll wear yellow the next day or something. And I don't know. And I guess she's got some
Let's look.
bizarre
No,
stuff going on.
I love it, because here's the other thing. Let's look at a news source, NPR, right? Associated Press news source. Just as a backup, obviously we love you, Ethan and Ela, but we also just were pulling from one of our favorite podcasts too, because that documentary just came out on Hulu, I think within the past week. This story is in the past week from NPR. It says February 11th, 2021. And it says the legality around Britney Spears conservatorship and the Free Britney movement. I do like you said, perhaps you've been doom scrolling social media this week to find that the hashtag Free Britney has been trending. So the documentary has rallied public sympathies. So it sounds like, okay, it says right now she remains under the control of a conservatorship that is partly run by her father. There have been some small changes to it in the past year. A co-conservator was put in place at the end of last year over the estate, the financial portion of the arrangement, and there's a lot at stake there. We do know that Britney for 4 years had this residency in Las Vegas, and it was one of the most successful, lucrative residencies in the history of the Strip. She made the ticket sales grossed something like $138 million, over 250 performances. That in and of itself is insane. That number of performances in 1 year.
Well, the fact that she's actually the one performing, but yet she's still deemed incompetent by the state, like that's actually what's insane. Because if you have a person who is that ill, they should not be out touring the country and put in all these unstable situations and inconsistent situations, I would, if I had to imagine.
She said, so this person speaking on behalf of Britney's team, it looks like, it is an uncommon arrangement for someone as young and seemingly productive and profitable as Britney Spears has been. This conservatorship arrangement is typically reserved for someone older, often someone with dementia, who is thought to be in cognitive decline. Britney, there's a lot we don't know about her mental health. In fact, we know very little concrete, but we do know that she was able to be productive. And then last week, a documentary produced by The Times aired on FX on cable. It's now streaming on Hulu, and that has really just ignited a huge conversation about the conservatorship and also about the kind of culture of celebrity that may have contributed to her personal struggles. It's a provoking conversation. Sorry, go ahead.
I also think like there was some point in time before her father was named conservator that they said that she couldn't even get a lawyer to have her back at all. Like she wasn't allowed to because she was deemed incompetent. So she wasn't allowed to seek legal counsel of any sort. So she didn't even have a chance to stand up for herself. I just think, I mean, whatever needs to be retried in a court of law with what's currently going on in her life. And yeah, I'm sure all kinds of things were painted a certain way to make her look a certain way. And that would drive a person crazy if you weren't already unstable. I mean, or you were on the brink, just having that kind of level of like insanity around you and like lack of control over your life that you've had your entire career so far, that would be insane. And it would make you feel like you were, I'm sure it like contributed to her mental health.
Well,
problems.
and that's the thing behind all of this is to remember the height of her uprising when she was just in her early 20s was literally 10 to 15 years ago. So
Yeah.
that wasn't that long ago. So there's an even more in-depth look at like there's this pervasive and toxic culture, right? And so this article cites there were clips in the documentary of journalists like Diane Sawyer really interrogating Britney Spears about her breakup with Justin Timberlake in this kind of accusatory tone. There's also talk show interviews where she was asked about her breasts and whether they're real. There was a soundbite of an archived recording that's played with a host saying everyone's talking about it, and Brittany says right, and the host says, well, your breasts, and she said my breasts, and then the host says you seem to get furious when a talk show host comes up with this subject. So in this interview, then the Blake, last name Blake, the lady who's representing her, says this isn't ancient history, right? This is 10, 15 years ago that we're talking about, that Britney was going through a lot of personal crises that played out very publicly and which became kind of fodder for very cruel mockery. She really became kind of a national punchline. And I think it's forced us all to kind of reconsider the way we talk about young women, their bodies, their sexuality, and their romantic lives.
But to be real, how much of that has actually changed? I know there's a lot
Right.
of movement from women right now trying to still fight about that, but I don't think anything has changed. If anything has changed, I haven't seen it.
And my bad, Meredith Blake is she's an entertainment reporter for the LA Times. That's who she was talking with.
I get, like, they have certain things they're supposed to cover in interviews that's, like, prearranged ahead of time, and if they deviate from that, it's obviously a big deal. However, if you're opening yourself up to media of any kind, I mean, if I were in that situation, I would be prepared to have answers to whatever, because, like, not that it's just anybody's business, but when you're in the public like that and you are willing to be interviewed, just count on the fact that there's gonna be stuff that comes up. I don't know.
Well,
It's
and
just kind
she
of a
legitimately
strange.
did have a lot of struggles, right? She did
Yeah.
party, she did do those things, and which it's different when you're a public figure because you can be under that scrutiny. The issue probably became like people are now saying, right? They're saying, well, her dad has conservatorship. But at the time, if she knew, okay, I lost my kids, I have to get it together and I need help to do this, that was probably her most trusted person.
She didn't
I
want
think.
she said she didn't want him to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't think so. It probably, if I had to get, I don't know the legal stuff in Louisiana or wherever they are, but in some states, like for making end of life decisions, like in Indiana, it goes through a chain of command essentially in your family, like by blood
Oh,
relative. So essentially, like like first, if
how do
I'm
they
married, it would be
determine?
my spouse, and
Okay.
then it would be my children over 18,
Mhm.
and then it would be like mom and dad, and then it would go to my siblings, and then like I I'm just I don't know that as fact, but that's like the essential process for
Wouldn't
making end of
they
life decisions for
wait,
people without a will or a living will.
right. Okay. Wouldn't they go with your benefactors? Like you, like when I get married, my husband will be, but right now my benefactors on like all my investments and
A
stuff
lot of people
are you
don't.
and Paul. So
No,
that
that's
that it
not,
would
that
be
has
split.
nothing to do though with end of life decisions. That's only like financial stuff, like whoever gets it if you die. But medical decisions, if you don't have a will in place or an advance directive saying like, I don't want certain things done if XYZ happens, or I want everything done, or I want nothing done because I know that I'm old and I'm fine with just being old and making my way making my way out, and I'm good
Making
with it.
my
There are lots of
way
people that
off
feel
of
that way.
planet Earth.
Yeah. So, like, if you don't have that in place, which a lot of people do not, then that's when
Do you
that.
have a living will?
No,
Oh. What do
I
you
don't, because
have you talked about it with your husband? Like, hey, this is what I want.
I've told him my wishes for like my death process, and like I don't want a funeral, and I also don't want to be buried, and I don't want a headstone. I want to be cremated
You
and
want your
scattered.
ashes sprinkled into the water, right?
Yeah.
I think you told me that before, actually.
Yeah.
What
I'm
if
very
Anthony
firm on that. And
what if Anthony is like, no, we're not doing that, Tony.
well,
What am I
then
supposed to
you get to
do?
take on over now.
I'm
He
just
won't, because no, we have a similar end of life wish, but
yeah.
for us, we know that between each other, and heaven forbid, like we've even had conversations in front of our kids about it, not like to them, like if something happens to both of us, please burn us and scatter us. No, that's not what we say. But we've had the conversation in front of them, so they're aware to a degree, and we
I've
try to
told
talk
you,
about
well,
it in a way that it's
I've
not
told you.
scary.
Yeah, I've told you before, not that you guys necessarily even want this, but I was like, I know I've told you, like, well, if something happened to both of you, I'd take your kids in a heartbeat. But then
Yeah.
afterwards I thought, well, she might not want that.
We've had lots of offers.
Yeah, lots of offers.
No, we don't have, I mean, I know that it's a thing you're supposed to do. I just kind of think it's morbid and like planning to the nth degree to your death. Like that, there's something weird about that to me. I'm not ready for it. I know maybe someday I'll get to the place where I am, but it just seems kind of strange to plan for your death. There's no such thing. Like I'll be gone and partying with God. So like,
You don't get to plan for your birth.
right, right.
You just come out.
And it's at that point, it's more about the people that are left behind that are still grieving.
Right.
But I also don't want like the idea, the viewings we've gone to, and the idea of I still have memories of seeing relatives in their casket
Yep.
as a small child and
Yeah.
as an adult. And
Yeah.
and I just like
They're like seared
how
into
I
your
wanted to
memory.
remember them, but yet I do. And I don't really want that for my family or my, you know?
Yeah.
There's just something very like idolatrous about it. I'm not shaming anybody who chooses that or any of our family by any means, because for a lot of people, cremation is a religious thing that they don't believe in burning your body.
Where does that
But
come? Where does that come from?
I don't know. The only thing I know about that I decided that I would go with cremation because it felt more natural was like from the dust we came and from to the dust will
Yeah,
return.
I thought the same thing. And
And
I
I
also
don't wanna take up space on the planet, like,
right.
unnecessarily, and also for my like, for me to think about my body decomposing is just like, why would I don't know. For me, it's just weird.
Well, on
Go
that,
out in flames, baby.
the sage has gone out, so I'll relight it
Oops.
as we prepare. It lasted for a while, but as we prepare for if we will pass the sage, we still
Is
don't,
her dad's name
we're just gonna
Frank?
call him Brittany's dad.
I'm gonna call him
I
Frank.
didn't actually look it up. I was trying to find a different news source to
Let
go
me look. I'll look real quick.
because Kara and I do not know the full story, and we have chosen a kind of a bit of a conundrum with this edition of Go Save Yourself because we don't really know the full context and history.
Jamie.
The name's Jamie?
I thought her sister's name was
That
Jamie.
is the sister's name. She must be named after him. It's
Jamie Lynn is her
Jamie Lynn
sister.
is her
Jamie is
sister.
her dad.
Okay.
And oh, Lynn is her mom.
Oh, that second born. Oh, poor Jamie Lynn.
I think she turned out like I think she lives the quiet life from what I have
I
read.
think she is. I think they tried to have her do the singing stuff a little bit, kind of similar to like, other siblings. And I think if I remember correctly, she got pregnant at like 15 or 16. But I remember seeing I think she was on a reality show on MTV or something. But
like 16 and pregnant.
Yeah, but I think, well, I don't know for sure, but I think that she's lived a pretty quiet life since then. You don't really hear about her.
So are you passing your stage to Jamie Spears? Not
Dad Jamie. Damie. I'm feeling gracious only because I want to think I want to think that a father would have his daughter's best interest in mind.
I want to think that too.
Even if it's come across wrong. The only like kind of stage dad I really felt that about with these pop stars was Jessica Simpson's dad. And I think that's pretty widespread. Like, he's kind of a creeper. But I don't know enough to not pass him the sage, even if it is to cleanse him of selfishness, right? I'm acting like it's real. Like, here, Jamie, take it. I'm blowing it your way. I only say that because I don't have enough information to withhold the sage. So I will pass to Jamie Spears.
Okay.
The dad, because I do want to believe that he would have his daughter's best interest in mind. And we know for certain there was time periods where, regardless of what caused it, she had quite a few issues going on that she was working through, as we all do.
I love your perspective. That being said, is that how you're supposed to do it?
However, no, you could say what Ethan always says now, with peace and love. No.
With peace and love. I'm going to hang on to my sage. I'll let you pass yours, and I support you in that. But I'm going to hang on to mine only because the small detail of her consent, and I understand these situations are fraught with all kinds of very different details in every kind of psych situation that there is on Earth. Like, there are no two alike. And so
human beings are super complex.
Yes. So knowing that, but I just saw the way the media painted her, and I can see how somebody who maybe had distanced themselves could swoop back in like a hawk and kind of take advantage of the situation. And I feel like even a person who is not mentally in a stable place is still able to recognize like people in her life that have hurt her or done something that would cause some kind of pain or I don't know, trauma of some sort. So for her to still have that, it's not like when you have like a psychotic episode that you completely lose. I mean, you lose some sense of reality. I don't know this from personal experience, but from watching psych patients in the emergency room, they still know, typically they know who they are, where they are, like basic stuff about them. Sometimes not. Sometimes if it's like drug induced, then no. But in kind of a more normal psychotic break situation, people still have a sense of their whereabouts and who they are, who they're around, like they know people. Also, like when we're talking about probably a months-long process, she likely was not in that very acute stage of psychosis or whatever it was she was experiencing.
Right.
She's talking about legal stuff and hiring a legal team on her end, because those aren't always long-lasting occurrences for people. It can be due to a med adjustment. It could be due to a whole lot of things. It could be due to the fact that she was being chased down by paparazzi and it freaking took her back to a traumatic experience she had before. I don't know.
Yeah.
But those aren't like typically long-standing incidents that are painted in like old movies and stuff where you see these psych wards and people just like rocking back and forth. That's not how actual, like, the majority of psych emergencies don't look like that. Sometimes they do, but those are, I would say, outliers. People are more likely to have just like a depressive episode or an anxiety attack or sometimes psychotic breaks, things like that. But
right.
I would say at the time that they were discussing legality, like she needed to have some sort of a voice in this situation, and I'm confused as to why the court couldn't appoint somebody else if she's specifically saying anybody else is fine, just not this person.
But that's also interesting, right? Like if if there was nobody else willing to take that on.
I don't think I don't think that's the case. I don't know though.
Yeah, we don't
Or
know.
was it like a
Look,
small county and it's
hey,
like my dad knows such and such judge and
here's
blah blah blah
what
blah
we
blah. Who knows?
in the comments below, those of you who are like super fans and you know the whole history, like we don't know if parents are still if her parents are still together. We don't know any of this. Clearly, we are only giving the sage options based on what each of us know and feel. We are split on this. We haven't been split on all of them, but weigh in below because we are not Britney experts.
We know a lot of you are though.
But we know a lot of you are out there. So weigh in, pick us apart. I mean, tell us what we don't know. So we're putting ourselves out there. But anyways, we'll be back soon with some more episodes. And also comment like what's a person that you want us to examine next as far as go sage yourself. I put examine because we're really just making observations. Clearly, we haven't had conversations with these people, and it's all in good fun. So if you like this, hit subscribe. You can also listen to our podcast. It's called the Sunflower Society Podcast. We do a little bit more personal development and spirituality talk and that type of stuff over there. So, all right, until next time. Bye, sister.
Bye, sister.